Midway through day one of free agency, news is breaking. Josh Palmer getting paid, going to the Bills, and De'Ami Brown going to the Jaguars. But before that, we had the big quarterback news. Sam Darnold to Seattle, Justin Fields to the Jets. We're going to talk about that. Chris Godwin back with the Buccaneers, and some big offensive line news. How about the Bears? Their offensive line being completely transformed. It looks like it's going to be pretty good. Welcome, everybody. Adam, Dave, Jamie, Heath. We're all here to talk about free agency. Let's get some big winners. Who wants to go first?
Me.
Oh, Jamie.
The Bucs backfilled with the fake Samaje Perine report.
Yeah, fooled you. Samaje Perine not going to the Buccaneers yet. I don't know what that was all about. But yeah, we got anybody like any values, any big changes today? Any big winners?
I'll go from the dynasty perspective. Justin Fields is a big winner. Anytime he's a starting quarterback in the NFL, he's got a chance to give you a top 12 season. We didn't know if he'd get a chance to start again.
He was the number 7 quarterback per game in the first 6 weeks of the season in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues and number 9 per game in 6-point. And he's pretty much always done that. I mean, for this Justin Fields, except his rookie year. But let's see, 2022, he was number 6 per game. 2023, he was 10th per game in 4-point, 14th per game in 6-point. That included one game where he left early with an injury. If you remove that game, he's like top 7. And last year, like I said, the 6 games he started, Justin Fields was a top 10 quarterback per game, top 9, in fact, in both formats. It wasn't really that impressive. I guess like the first 6 weeks of the season, they were kind of low scoring, if I recall, and the quarterbacks weren't that great. But he did what he did. He has a lot of really big games. Justin.
Last 4 games were good.
The last 4 games were good, but only one amazing game. But that's what he does. He has these huge games. He's very inconsistent. Over the last 3 seasons, he's played 33 healthy games, starts only. Okay, now he played 4 extra games with the Steelers where he did like nothing, but just his starts, 33 healthy starts. 17 of those 33 games he scored fewer than 20 fantasy points. So he's kind of been a boomer bust quarterback, but he has these huge weeks. But no, it is exciting. We talk about this horrible free agent quarterback class, whatever, but this guy is a fantasy starter year after year. Now he's going to the Jets. And Heath, how do you feel about that? Like, where would you rank him right now?
He's going to be in the top 12 discussion, but there are a lot of quarterbacks in that discussion. I think Kyler Murray absolutely has an argument to be there as well, and they're kind of right in the same range for me. So I'll probably rank him around 15. But if you want to stream quarterbacks, you take Fields and you take one of those guys like Baker Mayfield that you feel like is probably going to score you 20 points a game, and hope you can hit the home runs on the right weeks with Fields.
Fields or Anthony Richardson?
For now, I would say it's Richardson, but when they sign Daniel Jones, it's going to quickly turn to Justin Fields. But they're both going to be in that same boat of, okay, I can draft these guys and maybe I can start them for the first few weeks, but the bottom can fall out at any time, and they could cost you some weeks. Well, I'm shocked that Heath has them as high as he has them. There is certainly a world where there's huge disappointment from Fields. We saw it in the first 2 games last year. I'd be surprised if a lot of fantasy managers started Justin Fields through the first 2 weeks of last year and said, I'm going to keep starting this guy that can't even get me 20 points per game. Now, egg is on their faces, and it might be on mine too, because he was good after those games. But I am skittish on this. I don't know how long he'll be their starter. I would expect the Jets to add another quarterback in the draft. And I've come to learn that Justin Fields, yeah, he's got the rushing upside, and that's great. But as a thrower, it's not good. And I can say the exact same thing for Anthony Richardson. At least we've seen more games from Justin Fields than we have from Anthony Richardson. But there are so many other quarterbacks that have compelling upside. J.J. McCarthy has more compelling upside right now than both Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson. I don't know if I'm going to draft him ahead of those guys, but I'm kind of leaning toward it. And even if I don't draft them, there's Dak Prescott, there's Jordan Love, there's Drake May. I don't know who Drake May is throwing to, but my goodness, he's got huge upside too. He averaged almost 19 points per game in 11 games from weeks 6 through 17 with absolutely no one to throw to. So I don't know if these are going to be the dart throws that I would consider making when we're talking about the double-digit rounds on draft day.
I don't necessarily agree with you on the upside part of that, though. I think the upside favors those two guys more than almost.
You're talking about Richardson and Fields.
Yeah, I mean, if they hit, and it's a big if, obviously.
That's a big if.
But if they hit, their upside is top 5 for both of them.
Yeah. Well, obviously they have this huge rushing upside.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about two guys that can run for 1,000 yards. Like, you don't get that.
Yeah, Dave, I'm not really sure I'm feeling your Fields analysis. Like, I know he's not a very good passer. You could maybe argue that he made some strides last year.
Sure.
Pretty conservative, but it doesn't matter. And I just gave the numbers. I mean, every time he's been a starter, he's been a top 10 guy per game, even with those 2 horrible games at the beginning of the year with Pittsburgh.
It's like it was the first 6 games of last year. It was all of 2023 over 20 fantasy points per game for the season. 2022 over 20 fantasy points per game for the season. There's risk that he loses his job if they go draft another quarterback. But this is a guy that has, it's not consistent week to week. It's kind of like Tyler Lockett used to be. Like, yeah, he's going to have some really terrible weeks. Right. He have some really big weeks, but he's pretty consistent in his year-to-year production between 20 and 22 fantasy points per game, 3 years in a row as a starter.
You're going to love, Heath, you're going to love drafting him as your number 2 QB in super flex leagues, aren't you?
Well, no, I think that's the distinction. I think the arguments you make against Fields are better made in Superflex. I'm worried more about his floor in Superflex. In 1 QB leagues, most of them, I can go find a guy that's going to score 18 or 19 points. I want a guy that has the chance to score 25 on a weekly basis. I think I like Fields more in the 1 QB format than I do in the Superflex format because I don't have to worry about his floor in 1 QB.
Fair. I get that. I don't know how often you're going to get 25 points from him in any format.
Well, that's a lot to ask for. But you know who did that 8 times last year? 8 times, 25 or more fantasy points, 6 points.
Darnold?
League, Sam Darnold. Yep. One more time.
That's not going to happen this year either.
Oof.
No, well, that's what we said. That's what we said about it last year. But, all right. Well, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt our winners and losers conversation. Anybody want to throw out some more winners?
JSN?
Huh?
Yeah. Compared, now that Gino's gone, if you're starting from that point, like starting from when Gino was there, I think he's just kind of who he was.
Well, who do you guys think was the better thrower under pressure last year?
I don't think the pressure is going to be in Darnold's favor.
No,
but he likes throwing to his slot receivers, and if that's where JSN stays, then
he does. I did not really find that he liked throwing to his slot receivers.
I mean, he had like a 20% completion percentage to slot receivers.
Wait, 28% completion percentage? That would be bad.
20% of his targets.
I don't know if that's high.
I don't think that's high either.
Yeah, I looked through his history and just like the team.
Did I read it wrong? Yeah, I read it wrong.
If it was 82%,
I think 28 that high. I don't know. I don't know. Look, obviously he's their slot receivers. They're clearly their number 1 option. I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Darnold had the highest slot rate of his career in 2025.
Uh-oh.
Something happened?
No, I just forgot that Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson were college teammates.
That is a fact.
I love that. I always love my favorite narrative.
All right, JSN is a winner. So how about this? JSN or Garrett Wilson?
Oh, JSN.
I still have JSN over Garrett Wilson, but that's full PPR. I'm probably going to have it that way in non-PPR too.
JSN's a top 10 receiver.
What was that? Was that a good?
No, that's I think I'm going to disagree with Jamie now. But at this point, it's kind of unnecessary to have the debate about whether or not he's a top 10 wide receiver or a top 15 wide receiver. Like, he's close to top 10. I'm not going to fight you that hard. I'm more passionate about the quarterbacks, I guess.
Okay. My arguments against JSN as a top 12 wide receiver or top 10 would be pass volume and I hate that slot rate. 78% slot rate last year. That's insane. Kind of hard, just like hard. Well, I don't know how little they're going to throw. I know they don't want to throw a lot, but if they're like 24th in pass attempts, that's probably fine. But it's obviously a great opportunity for him. So Jamie says top 10. Dave's thinking more like top 15. Heath, how about you for JSN?
I think 15 is perfect.
All right. Jamie's the high guy right now. Any big losers today?
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. Like, you want to talk about pass rate?
Yeah.
Well, convince me that, he can't have a DJ Moore like season. DJ Moore in 2023 was number 7 wide receiver overall, top 7 in all 3 formats. He was 11th per game in non-PPR, 12th per game in full PPR, 12th per game in half PPR, 9th per game in full PPR. And I will say this, in 12 games with Justin Fields, this was DJ Moore's pace in 12 games with Justin Fields. Because remember, we had the Tyson Bagent weeks. 101 catches, 1,561 yards, 11 touchdowns on 140 targets. Unbelievable numbers. Just for the record, I don't think that's going to happen. But let's talk about that.
Way to go out on a limb.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I certainly can.
Do you think 1,200 yards could happen?
Could.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think Garrett Wilson is a bust, but this was not the ideal situation for him. That's why he's in the loser category.
Yeah.
Like, also, Garrett Wilson's never had a 1,200 yard season. So I don't know that I want to project a career best.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Moore had one, but
yeah, I hate
around 1,100 yards all 3 years. Garrett Wilson.
What kind of target volume? I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
147 to 168.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I'm drafting him, it's almost like the same thing as JSN. I'm hoping that volume is just crazy high for him. I hope he could get to 140 with Fields, and that's if Fields starts every game. I'd be shocked if the Jets didn't draft a rookie to try and push Fields.
Well, it's not like Adam was talking about how bad the quarterback class in the free agent is.
I get it, but if Fields goes out there and loses games, the second half of the year could belong to that rookie.
Or Tyrod Taylor, I suppose. He's a pretty good backup. Jets have the 7th pick.
They got him too. Can you imagine if Tyrod beats out Fields after they gave Fields all this dough? I'd be shocked, but what if?
I don't know. I'm a little surprised that what was the contract was 2 years, 40. It's not a lot for
$30 million guaranteed.
It's not a lot for a
really cheap quarterback. That's like right
he was
between
traded
backup
for
and starter.
a Frisbee last year.
Well, look, he's coming in to be the starter. Whether he holds on to the job the entire season remains to be seen.
That's
I mean, look,
fair.
there's a guy that got hurt in 2023. I think he got hurt in 2022, if I'm not mistaken as well, right? So last year lost his job after getting off to a 4-2 start.
Yeah. And his first 50 games as a passer, I don't think looked that much worse than Sam Darnold's.
So let's talk about any other losers you guys want to mention?
Kareem Hunt, Chiefs got a new backup running back.
Elijah Mitchell, 1-year deal. We've got other news. So we've got Chris Godwin back to the Bucs, $66 million.
Jalen McMillan's a loser.
Yeah, that stinks.
$44 million guaranteed for Godwin, who's recovering from a dislocated ankle. I will remind everyone the first 7 games of the season. Well, first of all, overall, he was the number 3 wide receiver per game. So the first 7 games of the season, he was incredible. He had 62. That's all I played. 62 targets. Mike Evans had 45 targets in those games. Chris Godwin had 50 catches. Evans had 26. Godwin had 5. I got to double check this. Was it really that big?
He was their best receiver.
I think it was 576 yards for him, 335 for Evans. He was crushing Mike Evans. Is Mike Evans a loser?
A little
bit. Yeah. I mean, you first off, turning 32, not ideal. Secondly, you have now 3 receivers that are going to command targets because I don't think McMillan's going to disappear. And so, the nice thing is that their pass game coordinators, now their offensive coordinators, so things should stay the same, and just build off what you just accomplished from a passing game perspective. But, if Evans is off to a slow start again and McMillan picks up where he left off, then they're all going to sort of cannibalize each other a little bit.
I don't want to underscore that. I mean, he was the best draft pick, arguably, for those first 7 games. Chris Godwin was a round 6-ish pick, and at time of the injury, he was the number 2 wide receiver in fantasy. Just bonkers. On pace for 121 catches, 1,400 yards, 12 touchdowns on 151 targets.
Do you consider this a big contract?
No, DK's getting on average $30 million a year, and he's getting $22 million a year, right?
There was a report that he turned down more money from the Patriots.
So I'll go back to what I said at the start of the offseason. I don't remember what show we did, that if they overpaid him, that shows you the confidence level they have him. If he's taking a discount, I don't see. To me, this is a fine deal. I don't think this is anything like too high, too low. I think it's, and according to reports, he wanted to stay. So, like, to me, the money was going to kind of dictate, I think, the health, sort of.
Okay. All right, listen, we got to take a break. Let's talk about a little bit more on Chris Godwin. Heath, what's our FFT Dynasty schedule looking like?
We will be on Tuesday and Friday this week breaking down all of the free agent news tomorrow from a Dynasty perspective.
All right, wonderful. Check it out. It's got its own separate audio feed, Fantasy Football Today Dynasty. You can watch all of it in the YouTube channel, the same one, youtube.com/Fantasy Football Today. Let's take a quick break. I want to know where you're going to rank Chris Godwin, where you're going to rank Mike Evans, and we'll throw Baker Mayfield in there as well. We'll be right back.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Anybody have initial rankings on Evans, Godwin, the Bucks, basically, Bucks passing game?
Evans around 20, Godwin right behind him.
Yep.
I have Evans ahead of Godwin as well, but they're in the teens for me. Part of it's because I don't love a lot of receivers once you get past T. Higgins, Ladd McConkey, Tyreek. There's a drop-off for me.
Okay.
And if Chris Godwin is back to normal and there's great reports about the offense, in a PPR league, I might put Godwin ahead of Evans.
So, again, I'm probably going to keep bringing this up 1,000 times. I am sure we're going to hear reports about Chris Godwin being back to normal, just like we did with Tony Pollard, just like we did with Tank Dell. I just know that with those two guys in particular, the results did not match it. And, with Godwin coming off the torn ACL a few years ago, it took him 2 full seasons to get back to health. So, I'm sure there's going to be optimistic reports and he's full go for this and whatever. I'm just nervous about the guy coming back from a broken ankle, a dislocated ankle.
That's why he's behind Evans for me.
Yeah. And I'm nervous about Evans being 32, which is why, as of now, I have not drafted Baker Mayfield, I don't think. And I haven't really been targeting him. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Baker?
Yeah.
I think the encouraging thing with Baker last year was what he did when those guys were out.
Was he good?
He was kind of hovering in that 20-point per game range.
20.4. That's the Justin Fields upside range.
That is not Justin Fields' upside. This is average for the last 3 years.
Justin Fields' average
Thank you.
when he's been playing the last 2 seasons.
3.
He was better than that 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions about Breece Hall in the chat. I guess we didn't mention him during the Justin Fields segment. I do think it's probably he's going to be more efficient as a rusher because of Fields, but he's done a lot of his damage through the passing game. I'm not sure how many targets he's going to get. I moved him down.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah. Anyone else feel that way?
It does hurt its value, yes. I mean, especially with what's going to be still a rebuilding team. So how much will they be scoring points? His touchdown potential gets lowered a little bit. You look at the teams in the division, the Patriots spent $1 billion on defense today with Mike Vrabel coming in. So they're going to be better there. Bills are still going to be tough. Dolphins run defense is going to be okay. So 6 tough games.
Where do you guys have Breece? Like, is he even
around
top 12? Oh, wow. Okay. Not top 12.
I think he's 15 for me.
Is it crazy right now? If everything stays as it is, Najee Harris signed somewhere else to take Jalen Warren over Breece Hall.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But look, Jalen Warren's in a good spot right now.
Yeah, right. He's in a really good spot as of right now. Okay. So we talk about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold last year was awesome. He let's see, where did he finish? He finished as the number 8 quarterback per game in both 4-point and 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. More than 4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns. Everyone's going to talk about his last 2 games. His last 2 games were horrible. 166 yards, no touchdowns at Detroit when Detroit was historically bad on defense. And then 245 yards, a touchdown and a pick. And he wasn't even that good at the Rams in the playoffs. That game was at a neutral site. But the 2 games before that, I just want everybody to just go back 2 games before that. He scored 29 points at Seattle. He threw for 246 yards and 3 touchdowns. He scored 31 points against the Packers, 377 yards and 3 touchdowns. What if the season just ended there? You know, how excited would people be? So it was overall really good year for Sam Darnold. He goes to Seattle, 3 years, $105 million, $55 million guaranteed. Is he even going to be in your top 15?
No.
Top 20?
No.
Around there. Depends what else they do at receiver too.
Do they get anybody else to catch the ball? Even if the season had ended after those games, we would still be saying he threw 1,800 passes on 3 other teams before he went to the Vikings and got saved. And he was awful. He had a 3.5% touchdown rate and a 3% interception rate and averaged 6.7 yards per attempt.
That's before last year. Right. He goes through the Kevin O'Connell car wash.
But does it stick? Or like you go get your car washed, if you go drive through a mud puddle, it's going to be dirty again.
I know they're not the same. Kirk Cousins had the injury and coming back from them. He's older than dirt, but Cousins got himself paid, and now Darnold got himself paid. It's not nearly as good of a situation as the team looks now. I fully expect them to improve at wide receiver. They'll draft somebody, and I fully expect them to improve on that offensive line. I don't know if they can do enough to make me believe that Sam Darnold can go back to being north of 20 fantasy points per game. I'm not sure I would want him to be my number 2 QB in a super flex league. And yeah, I might even take Justin Fields in that upside that you talked about, Heath, ahead of Sam Darnold. I really don't like it.
You might
the Seahawks right now.
Your Justin Fields hate is just insane right now.
Well, of course, he left his Bears.
I'm not a Bears fan anymore.
I would argue, just to give a little bit of credit to Darnold, that he was not that bad in 6 games with the Panthers in 2022. They only let him throw 22 times per game, but he really wasn't that bad. He threw some nice deep balls to DJ Moore. DJ Moore had a strong finish to that season. Darnold was fine, I guess. And then he broke out this year. Is really good.
Yeah. Now he's going to throw deep balls to DK Metcalf. Oh, maybe not. Oh, there's Tyler Lockett. Oh, no, not him either.
So off the air, Dave was teasing me for loving Sam Darnold. I said to Dave that actually last year, statistically, Sam Darnold was one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. And he had one of the best completion percentages and yards per attempt on pass attempts of 20 or more air yards and 30 or more air yards. And he was even better on those types of throws in those 6 games with Carolina in 2022. I watched 3 games today of Sam Darnold, all of his throws from weeks 13, 16, and 17. And that was one thing that stood out. He did throw some really good deep balls. And he also, he made some great throws. I mean, I didn't think he was playing quarterback at some supreme level, but every now and then he would make some great throws, including big throws in the 4th quarter, rallying his team to wins. Did a good job. I also would say that, man, did he have wide open receivers a lot. And just think about this for JJ McCarthy, because they made it really easy on him to hit open receivers. And then I also watched a lot of Russell Wilson today, and it was the exact opposite. I don't see guys running wide open in Pittsburgh's offense. I see it all the time in Minnesota's offense. So that's just one guy's take.
I mean, it's the Shanahan-McVay system. I mean, they're going to get guys open. That's why these guys are coveted.
It's working.
And theoretically, that's what they should have with Clint Kubiak going from New Orleans to Seattle. And he has a connection with Darnold. They work together in San Francisco. So I do think that at least the scheme will be familiar for Darnold. But it's a different type of play caller, clearly a different type of receiving core, clearly a different type of offensive line. And it could be a team that runs the ball a lot more than Minnesota did last year.
I totally agree with that. I just, one thing I think is the offensive line in Minnesota definitely changed when Darrisaw got hurt, and he wasn't playing behind the same offensive line for the second half of the season.
Yep.
They still did well. Right?
I mean, it's a better
in the second half.
It's a better line than what he's stepping into with Seattle. But he still had to deal with a significant change that wasn't as prolific as it was at the start of the season.
And again, Seattle will improve that line. They honestly could stand to get 4 new linemen. The interior probably need to do what the Bears did with the interior.
When you guys
cap space.
when you look at Russell Wilson, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith,
I want to poke my eyes out.
Aaron Rodgers. Sorry, that was the fourth guy. So it's Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. Do you sort of feel like they're interchangeable in terms of for the values of the wide receivers that they're throwing to?
I don't know what you mean.
Okay,
The value of the wide receivers.
Garrett Wilson getting Justin Fields, that's a downgrade because Fields runs a lot, doesn't throw a ton of touchdowns, whatever. But this wide receiver going from Russell Wilson to Aaron Rodgers or Geno Smith to Sam Darnold or whatever it is, does it basically keep that wide receiver the same in these hypothetical scenarios? Are those 4 quarterbacks basically the same 4 wide receivers?
I think if the Steelers get Aaron Rodgers, that's a benefit to DK Metcalf and George Pickens if he stays.
Like better than Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
Slightly. Just because I think what those guys do is something that benefits what Russ does.
But you know what I'm saying, right? The quarterbacks are not shaking up the wide receiver, right? Those 4 quarterbacks in particular, Geno, Darnold, Wilson, Rodgers, you could rank them any way just in terms of this is how many yards they're going to throw for, how many touchdowns they're going to throw for.
I don't look at Darnold going to the Seahawks comparatively to what Geno Smith just left as a downgrade for JSN. To me, it's a similar situation. You're talking about a quarterback that's somewhat shaky, that is going to have some good throws, struggle with pressure. I mean, Smith may handle the pressure better than Darnold did. Darnold may throw the ball a little bit better than Geno did. So, to me, that's almost like didn't change my rankings for him. For Garrett Wilson, had Rodgers gone, or not Rodgers, had Rodgers stay with the Jets, or let's just say they got Darnold, that would be, I think, slightly better for Garrett Wilson than what it is for Justin Fields. So Fields is maybe a slight downgrade. Wilson's maybe a slight downgrade because of Fields going there. So, the Steelers guys had Justin Fields re-sign with Pittsburgh. That would have been problematic for DK Metcalf and George Pickens because we saw that for 6 games for Pickens. His best 6-game stretch was the first 6 games that Russell Wilson took over, and he was a top, borderline top 12 receiver during that time.
I don't know if you want to pivot to anything else, but I was just comparing DK Metcalf versus George Pickens over the last 3 years since Pickens came into the NFL. And I would argue that if you just looked at their raw numbers, you took the teams away, just looked at their numbers, you looked at their per route data, their target per route run, that kind of stuff, yards per catch, yards per target, you probably would have a hard time telling who was a better receiver between George Pickens and DK Metcalf.
They were close.
Yeah, they were close. Now, Metcalf probably has a slight edge because one year was Pickens' rookie season. Metcalf has a big edge in touchdowns, so you probably go with that guy. But yards per game are nearly identical, at least over the last 2 years. It doesn't count the first 3 years of Metcalf's career, which were much better than anything we've seen from Pickens. But, we all like Metcalf better than Pickens, but I just wanted to bring that up because on paper, I think they're pretty similar in terms of production in the course of Pickens' career.
They do the same thing.
Pickens a little bit deeper, a little bit higher ADOT, but yeah, right, they're similar guys. Yeah, it's a weird fit.
Well, that's why I think a lot of people think Pickens is going to be traded.
Could be.
He won't be on the team. I'd be surprised. I'll amend it. I'd be surprised if he's on the team in 2026.
Oh, that's, I think, a guarantee. I'd be like, if I'm the Patriots, I'm calling the Steelers and seeing if I can get this guy for next to nothing. Given the fact that you just spent $30 million per year on his upgrade or his clone.
Sure.
And knowing that you may have to pay Pickens, but maybe don't pay him and just say, here, come, we're giving you a fresh start, prove it. And that would be a huge asset for Drake May.
I don't know. I'd kind of like to watch Aaron Rodgers and George Pickens just interact for a year.
So what was I going to say? All right, maybe I'm going to regret saying this.
Good.
If I have to be on freezing cold takes, whatever. I hate this Josh Palmer deal. What is this? 3 years, $36 million. How much guaranteed for Josh Palmer? 18 million, 12 million. Let me see. That's a big deal. Let me get that right. 18 million guaranteed.
For how many years?
3 years. It's not that much, but I don't know. It's not a needle mover for me.
There's always one of these a year that makes you scratch, like Gabe Davis last year to Jacksonville. Like, there is always just a guy who's had some good moments, and maybe a team. There's a coach that knows him, who knows, front office person that knows him from the Chargers. Somebody scouted him in college somewhere along the way. I don't know. I mean,
He's fine. He's fine. But
yeah, he's a good player. You know, like why did the Rams re-sign Tutu Atwell for 1 year, $10 million? You know, it's just
Right.
sometimes this doesn't make sense. You know, so maybe he'll help them in special teams. I don't know.
So Josh Palmer got $36 million for 3 years.
yeah.
Yeah, but half of it's guaranteed.
Right.
So I don't know if it's
Go
really.
ahead. What Giants shot are you about to take?
No, I wasn't going to take a giant shot at all. Like I was just teams must be really, really worried about Marquise Brown just never being himself again.
Yeah, we should talk about that too, because Xavier Worthy was arrested, not going to be charged for an alleged assault. And then the Chiefs also signed Hollywood Brown. They re-signed him. 1 year deal, could be worth up to $11 million.
That's probably him wanting to stay, though. Like, if he tested the market, he might have got more.
He may have. Seems like it based on today.
You would think. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine, like, if the Bills said, here's $18 million for these two players, they're taking Josh Palmer over Marquise Brown for what Brown could have done for their offense.
How about De'Ami Brown? De'Ami Brown, 1 year, $10 million. Hollywood Brown, 1 year, $11 million. De'Ami Brown to the Jaguars. Hollywood back to the Chiefs. Strange.
So they've got De'Ami Brown, Brian Thomas, and Gabe Davis are the 3 wide receivers.
And Brenton
And Brenton
Strange.
Oh, Parker Washington.
Parker Washington, yeah.
Okay.
What a crew.
And Nick Mullins. Hey, Vikings quarterback room was gutted today.
It's been it's been what, 5 days? No, not quite. It's been since Friday, the Christian Kirk news. Seems like it's been a long time, but Heath and I did a bonus podcast about Adams, and we kind of mentioned Christian Kirk. But how's Christian Kirk looking right now on the Texans?
Good.
It's good. It was a good signing.
Right.
Number 4 wide receiver.
Yeah, I was unexcited about him in the wake of the news of him, like, inevitably getting cut, and then he wasn't cut, and he landed in Houston. I think it was Jamie who brought up, well, what if he goes somewhere awesome? What if he's Cooper Kupp's replacement in the Rams? That would have been awesome. This is a pretty good landing spot for him to replace Stephon Diggs and be the slot receiver, maybe the third down guy too, just someone who could be, you know, a pair of reliable hands for CJ Stroud. Absolutely draftable. Definitely a winner in free agency, but not necessarily like a top 30 type of fantasy receiver. I wouldn't put him that high.
I like him better than Josh Palmer.
I like everybody better than Josh Palmer.
Do you like him better than Khalil Shakir?
No.
Kirk,
Yeah.
they're somewhat similar right now. I don't think the Texans are done adding receivers. That's the thing.
Okay, I've got some random questions for you.
I do like, by the way, the Bengals signing Samaje Perine as a big win for Chase Brown.
I'm glad they signed somebody.
Wait, the Bengals
should sign some of their
Perine?
some of their
Bengals
really
signed
good
Samaje
players.
Perine.
Oh, I did not even see that. Okay, that you like that?
Yeah, I mean, if
Like
that's the number 2 guy there, that's a huge win.
Oh, he's not going to be the number 2 guy. He's the third down guy. Perine.
Okay, so he's the third guy, but he's
Yeah.
the backup. I mean,
Well, right now, yeah. But I don't think you can go. I don't think Cincinnati can be like, oh, Samaje Perine's our number 2 running back. That'd be.
well, if you go with Samaje Perine, I mean, they paid him, so not a huge deal, but they paid him. If you go with Chase Brown, Samaje Perine, and another Travion Williams type of player, like they got by with that last year.
Yeah, you could really buy into Chase Brown at that point.
Yeah.
Like Chase over Brees. I'm sure you guys already have Chase over
Oh,
Brees.
yes.
Yeah. I'll get there.
The only thing I'd say is that Chase Brown is not going to play on third downs very much. I would not think anyway, if Perine's going back there. I don't remember how much he did last year.
I don't think that's necessarily a horrible thing, as you've pointed out time and time again with Joe Mixon, like how much they throw to their running backs on first and second down, and maybe not overworking him.
Yeah, I think toward the end of last season, if I'm not mistaken, Chase Brown was playing 90% of the snaps or something like that.
80% plus in every game from week 9 through 17. And if it's only Samaje Perine, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened again this coming year.
Okay. All right, let's take a break. I'll throw some random questions at you, and we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
Yeah, we always find our way back home.
Okay, how surprised would you be if Devontae Adams outscored Garrett Wilson this season?
Not.
Surprise.
I expect it.
You're ranking Adams ahead of Wilson?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm going to get there too.
No.
You want to? Let's talk about that. I think that's pretty interesting. 32-year-old wide receiver, number 2 guy on his team versus 4th-year receiver, number 1 guy on his team. But obviously, there are some circumstances. Garrett Wilson versus Devontae Adams. Heath, go.
Listen, I think it's really hard to project what's going to happen with Devontae Adams' targets because he's had 7 straight seasons with more than 10 targets per game. And he's going to a system where they've shown the willingness to just throw 10 passes to this guy, throw 10 passes to this guy, hand off 20 times to this guy, and nobody else gets to touch the football. I think that could happen for Adams. There's a risk in the age, and I won't rank him as high as I project him, but I dropped his target share about 10% from where it's been the last couple of years and project him in this offense, and he comes out as wide receiver 14. I'm not going to have Garrett Wilson most likely as a top 20 wide receiver.
Dave?
Hi.
Want to expand on that, or hey, what's up?
I think it's more likely that Devontae Adams has more touchdowns than Garrett Wilson. I think they'll be relatively close in terms of catches. You can give the nod to yardage to Garrett Wilson, but quality of target and offense is going to favor Devontae Adams. Heath's absolutely right. It's target funnel for sure coming in LA for Adams. He's a great replacement for Cooper Kupp. Sucks for Jordan Whittington. I forgot to say that on our last show. Garrett Wilson, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. Other than the fact, yeah, he'll be the number 1 guy. Like that you can lock in, sure. Does that mean he's going to get 8 targets per game? How good will those targets be? I'm clearly going to be nervous about this for him.
Okay, how surprised would you be if Brian Thomas Jr. outscored Puka Nacua?
Not surprised.
Wouldn't be that surprised.
I'm not going to rank it that way, but I agree. Not that surprising.
Yeah.
They're close enough.
I bet that's how we all feel.
How surprised would you be if Justin Fields outscored Jared Goff in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues?
What?
Not surprised.
Not even a little.
I would be surprised.
How surprised would you be if Jacoby Myers outscored Chris Godwin?
I'd be surprised.
Not surprised.
Yeah, the draft will answer that question, it seems like. But as of right now, not surprised. I think it's projected that way right now.
Well, I've run out of how surprised would you be, so let's think of some more. How surprised would you be if Ken Walker had 60-plus catches and finished as a top 5 running back?
Not surprised.
I'd be a little surprised.
What was he on pace for last year? 40-something?
I don't know.
I don't know why I'm so far off on this one because I've got him projected for like in the 50s.
Yeah,
I think it's the top 5 part that gets me more than the 60 catch part.
Oh, he had 46 in 11 games. He was basically on pace for 60 last year.
he was on pace for 71.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I remember because I was at that combine, and the big story was like, can he catch the ball? Because he didn't really do it in Michigan State. And I remember talking to him, and he said, I forget where he started his college career at.
Wake Forest, I think.
Yeah, and I think he did. He was more involved in the passing game there.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was saying, he's like, yeah, I can catch the ball. It's not something that is going to be a hindrance for me. And then he didn't do it his first 2 seasons in Seattle at all, basically. And showed you can.
Okay.
He just won't be the only Seattle running back catching the ball.
How surprised would you be if the Bears, with 3 new interior offensive linemen and a new head coach, have a top 5 offense this season?
Surprised.
I'd be
Top 5 a little
surprised
bit
it's top 5.
stretch, but yeah, surprise.
I'd go an 8 on a surprise-o-meter.
How surprised would you be if Caleb Williams outscored Baker Mayfield?
No.
Not surprised.
Little surprised.
That could happen in a variety of ways.
How about if he outscored Jaden Daniels?
That'd be very,
Very
surprised.
surprised.
What?
That's all I got. Heath, guess where I went today?
You went to the gym.
a place that I think you really should go. I really strongly recommend it.
The barber.
The dentist.
The dentist.
I did, yeah.
How was it?
Wow.
Horrible. I hated it. I
Yeah.
have to go back Wednesday to get fillings.
Oh, that'll be much better.
Yeah. But I thought about you. I said, wow, he might hate this.
Whoa, big trade.
Oh,
Come on. What
we
Huge trade. Texans are
interrupted
trading
dentist
Laramie
talk.
Tunsil. I asked that Jane Daniels question again. Jane Daniels has got Laramie Tunsil.
Oh, wow.
What's the deal?
A
the deal?
package of picks.
Well, how about that Dynasty League that I just acquired Jaden Daniels in? Who's
Yeah.
laughing now?
It's nice.
I didn't see the trade. How did you pull it off?
I gave up. What did I give up? All right. You know what? We'll end on this. I'll look up the transaction. I gave up.
It was another shady deal where he had to go back and explain one of his trades.
Oh no, I did see it. I hated it. Now I remember.
Yeah. Well, you were on the air when I did it.
Yeah, I remember. It was a shady deal. We had to for some reason you just traded away 203 for 209 straight up or something.
Well, I had agreed to give 203 in the trade. And when he made the trade with me, he acquired 209. And I said, whoops, you took the wrong pick. So then we traded the picks. I gave him 203 for my 209. So I think it was 211, actually. But anyway, it was Jaden Daniels and pick 1.7 for Lawrence McConkey and next year's first and 2.3.
Shady.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for watching and listening, everybody. By the way, Jimmy Garoppolo back with the Rams. Maybe that makes you feel a little bit better about Puka Nacua and
Grady
Devontae
Jarrett to Chicago also just happened.
Bear down.
Bear down. And Myles Garrett got a new contract.
What is Houston doing? Unless they got just a crazy package of picks, draft picks.
We're out of here. We'll talk to you. I don't know when we'll talk to you. Likely tonight or tomorrow. See you later, everybody.